My name is Jessica Miller, and I'll never forget the night my father turned into a stranger. He sat across the kitchen table, jaw tight, eyes cold, and said the words that split my world apart. Either serve your sister, or leave this house. For years, I'd been the shadow in my own family, cooking Emily's meals, folding her clothes, even paying her debts while she smirked at me like a queen watching her maid. Dad always defended her, always reminded me that family means sacrifice. I thought I could endure it forever, but that ultimatum wasn't just another order, it was a final insult, one that snapped something inside me. Instead of fighting, I smiled, stood, and pulled my suitcase from under the stairs. Their laughter followed me out the door, certain I'd crawl back, but a week later, with 29 missed calls flashing on my phone, they learned the truth. I was gone. Dad's words still echoed in my head as the silence stretched across the living room. Serve your sister or leave. He didn't shout this time, he didn't need to. His voice was flat, calm, like he'd already decided my fate. Emily was sprawled on the couch, her legs dangling over the armrest, twirling her hair like she owned the place. She smirked at me with the kind of satisfaction that only came from years of getting everything she wanted. Go on, Jess, she drawled. Dad's right. Be useful for once. My laundry basket's upstairs, you know where it is. Her casual cruelty made my chest burn. I tightened my grip on the suitcase handle still resting by the door. I'm not your maid, Emily. Her laugh cut through the room. You always say that, then you do it anyway. Don't embarrass yourself. Dad slammed his hand on the table so hard the plates rattled. Enough. Don't talk back to your sister. She deserves respect. Everything in this house, you owe to me. Without me, you'd be on the streets. My voice shook, but I forced the words out. I've been working since I was 16. I paid bills you didn't even notice. I gave up school so Emily could have her dream college. And you're still telling me I owe you? Emily rolled her eyes. Oh, please. Playing the victim again. You love the drama. The heat in my chest spread to my throat. I looked at both of them, my father, who should have protected me, and my sister, who treated me like a servant, and I realized something terrifying. They were united. Against me. Fine, I whispered, each syllable trembling but sharp. If leaving is what you want, then I'll give you exactly that. For the first time, Dad looked startled. Emily stopped smirking. Jess, don't be ridiculous, Dad said, his voice low, warning. You're not going anywhere. I lifted the suitcase. Watch me. I turned toward the door. Emily's voice followed me, dripping with false confidence. You'll be back. You always come back. The screen door creaked as I pulled it open. Their figures blurred in my peripheral vision, Emily's mocking grin, Dad's rigid posture. I stepped out into the night. The cool air slicing across my face like freedom and fear rolled into one. And for the first time in my life, I didn't look back. The night swallowed me whole as I stepped off the porch, suitcase wheels rattling across the cracked pavement. The streetlight flickered above, casting long shadows that stretched like ghosts behind me. My hands shook, but not from fear. It was adrenaline raw, bitter, and strangely liberating. Behind me, the front door slammed. Emily's voice carried through the night air. Don't get too far, Jess. You'll be back before sunrise. Her laughter stabbed through me, but I didn't stop. Each step felt heavier than the last, as though the years of sacrifice I'd carried were packed inside that suitcase. I remembered being 10 years old, saving the bigger slice of cake for Emily because Dad told me, she's smaller, she needs it more. I remembered skipping the school dance to babysit her when Dad went out. I remembered every time I handed over money from my weekend job at the diner because Emily needed gas for her car. Sacrifice. That was the word Dad used like a whip. Family means sacrifice, Jessica. You're the older one. You're stronger. You can handle it. Handle it. That phrase haunted me. It was Dad's way of saying my pain didn't matter. My dreams didn't matter. All that mattered was Emily's comfort. I reached the corner and paused under the lamppost, chest heaving, eyes stinging. My childhood home loomed behind me, windows glowing warmly, as if nothing had happened, as if it hadn't just spit me out. I half expected Dad to come storming out, to drag me back with his iron voice. But the night stayed quiet. For the first time in years, the silence was mine. I tilted my head back, staring at the thin slice of moon above. A laugh slipped past my lips, shaky and strange, but real. It wasn't happiness. Not yet, but it was a spark of something close. Freedom, maybe. Or defiance. I whispered into the empty street, my voice trembling but fierce. Let's see how they survive without me. The suitcase handle dug into my palm as I gripped it tighter. Every step away from that house was a step towards something new, something terrifying. But mine. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know how long I'd last on my own. But I knew one thing for certain. I'd rather face the unknown than live one more day being their servant. And with that, I kept walking, leaving behind not just a house, but the girl who had always bowed her head. The Pinecrest Motel looked exactly like the kind of place you stop at when you've run out of options. The neon sign outside sputtered weakly, buzzing against the quiet night, while the paint peeled from the doors like old scabs. I dragged my suitcase inside, the wheels squealing across the linoleum floor of the tiny reception area. The clerk barely looked up, just slid me a key attached to a cracked plastic tag. Room 12. Cash or card? He muttered. Card, I said, forcing my voice steady. My hands trembled as I swiped it. It wasn't fear, it was the sudden realization that this, right here, was my first night truly alone. Room 12 smelled like bleach and stale air. The single lamp flickered when I turned it on, casting shadows against the faded wallpaper. I set my suitcase on the bed, the mattress sagging beneath the weight, and collapsed beside it. For a moment, the silence pressed in so hard, it hurt. No Emily yelling for me to fetch her snacks. No dad barking reminders about bills. Just the hum of the air conditioner and the faint hiss of traffic outside. It should have felt peaceful, but it felt hollow instead. I curled my knees to my chest and let the tears come. Hot, relentless, but strangely cleansing. They weren't just tears of sadness, they were tears of release. Years of swallowed words, of slammed doors, of choosing silence because I thought it was love. When the sobs quieted, I wiped my face and reached for the one thing that had always been mine, my journal. The cover was worn, corners bent, pages crammed with everything I'd never dared say out loud. On a fresh page, I wrote 3 words. No more chains. The letters bled into the paper, fierce and final. Then I started listing everything Dad and Emily had tied me to. The shared phone plan in my name. The utilities I'd been paying for, just until Emily got on her feet. The credit card Dad had opened with me as a co-signer, the emergency fund I'd built, drained again and again for their crises. Seeing it on paper made my stomach twist. How had I let them take so much? How had I convinced myself that being used was the same as being loved? I set the pen down and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow, I would start cutting ties, one by one. Let them feel the weight of the bills I'd been carrying alone. I reached over, clicked off the lamp, and whispered into the dark. You wanted me gone. Now you'll see what gone really means. For the first time in my life, the thought of tomorrow didn't terrify me. It electrified me. Morning light crept through the thin motel curtains, painting the walls a dull yellow. I sat at the rickety desk with my laptop open, coffee steaming beside me. My hands still trembled, but this time with focus, not fear. Today wasn't about running away. Today was about taking back what was mine. The first call went to the phone company. For years, Dad had insisted that all our phones be on one plan, to save money. What it really meant was that I paid the bill every month while Emily upgraded her phone like clockwork. Hi, I need to remove 2 lines from my account, I said firmly. The representative clicked away on her keyboard. That will leave just your number active. Are you sure you want to proceed? Yes, effective immediately. When the confirmation email hit my inbox, I felt lighter. One chain snapped. Next was the utility company. Dad had convinced me to put the gas and electricity under my name, since, your credit's better, Jessica. I'd believed him, of course, telling myself it was just temporary. Temporary had turned into 5 years. Cancel service at 814 Maple Drive, I told the agent. As of today, another chain broken. The hardest part was the credit card. Dad had made me co-signer, just in case, and I'd watched the balance balloon with Emily's shopping sprees. I'd been making the minimum payments, terrified my credit would tank. Not anymore. Remove all authorized users, I instructed. Freeze further charges. The agent hesitated. Miss Miller, that means your father and sister won't be able to. I know exactly what it means. By noon, I had 3 confirmation numbers scribbled in my journal. Each one was like a stone lifted off my chest. My breathing felt easier, my shoulders lighter. For lunch, I walked to a diner down the street. Sitting by the window, I watched families come and go. A father helped his daughter with her coat, tying the scarf snug around her neck. My throat tightened, but I forced myself to look away. That kind of father had never been mine. Back in my motel room, I stared at the growing list in my journal. Phone plan gone. Utilities gone. Credit card frozen. There were more ties to cut, but already I could feel the shift. For years, they had leaned on me like I was unshakable stone. Now they would feel the ground crumble under their feet. I leaned back in the chair, closed my eyes, and whispered, "Let them stand on their own for once." And for the first time, the silence didn't feel hollow. It felt powerful. It didn't take long for them to notice. By Wednesday, my phone lit up like a fire alarm, 10 calls from Dad, 12 from Emily, and a handful from numbers I didn't recognize. By Friday, the count was 29 missed calls, my voicemail inbox overflowing with rage, confusion, and desperation. The first messages were sharp. Dad's voice thundered through the speaker. "Jessica, what the hell did you do? The phone lines are dead. Emily's without service. Fix it. Now." I deleted it without listening to the rest. Then came Emily. "Are you kidding me, Jess? I can't log into Netflix. The power company is calling, and Dad says the credit card's frozen. You think this is funny?" Another delete. But the tone shifted as the days passed. The fury turned into panic. "Jess, the mortgage company called. They want the full payment. We don't have it. Pick up the phone." "Jessica, please. Your sister can't live like this. We need you. Family sticks together. Call me back." I sat on the edge of the motel bed, phone buzzing relentlessly, and realized something. For the first time in years, they needed me more than I needed them. On Saturday night, Dad finally caught me off guard. I answered without thinking, thumb slipping against the screen. "Jessica," he barked, his voice hoarse. "This is not a game. Without you, this family collapses." My grip on the phone tightened. "Then let it collapse. I'm not your servant anymore." "You ungrateful," he sputtered. "After everything I've given you, everything you've taken, you mean?" My voice shook, but I didn't stop. "My paychecks, my time, my dignity. You handed it all to Emily while I broke my back. And now you're shocked I'm done?" There was a long pause. For the first time in my life, I had silenced him. Emily's voice screeched in the background. "Tell her she'll regret this. She can't survive without us." I almost laughed. The irony was too sharp to ignore. "I'm surviving just fine," I said, my voice steady. "It's you who can't make it without me." I hung up before they could reply. My hands were trembling, but not from fear. This time it was adrenaline, the rush of reclaiming power. I set the phone face down on the nightstand and whispered into the quiet room. "They wanted me gone. Now they'll see what that really means." The buzzing started again, immediately call number 30. But I didn't answer. I wouldn't. For the first time, silence was my weapon. By Sunday, the motel room felt less like a refuge and more like a war room. Papers spread across the desk, bank statements, bills, old receipts. I wasn't just cutting ties anymore. I was uncovering evidence. That morning, I got a call from Hannah, a friend who worked at the local bank. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. "Jess," she whispered, "you need to know something. Your dad came in last month trying to take out a loan in your name." I froze. "What?" "He said you'd co-sign. Brought fake paperwork even. We flagged it because the signatures didn't match." My stomach twisted. So it wasn't just exploitation. It was fraud. "Thanks for telling me, Hannah," I said, my voice shaking. I hung up and stared at the ceiling. Dad had been planning to dig even deeper into my life, to chain me tighter. And Emily, God, she must have known. The phone buzzed again. Emily this time. Against my better judgment, I picked up. Her voice was sharp, frantic. Jess, do you realize what you've done? Dad's furious. We can't pay anything. Do you want us homeless? Homeless? I scoffed. You mean like the years I almost lost my apartment because I was covering your bills? How does it feel, Emily? You don't understand, she snapped. I have things to deal with. I bit back the urge to scream. What things? Silence. Then a shaky breath. Fine. Credit cards. Shopping. A few loans. Dad said you'd help, like always. My chest tightened. The betrayal had layers, deeper than I'd imagined. So you two weren't just leaning on me, you were sinking me. Using my name, my money, my life. It's family, Emily insisted, voice breaking. Family sacrifices. Don't you dare use that word, I spat. Sacrifice is what I did every single day. Sacrifice is giving up school so you could go. Sacrifice is working weekends while you partied. What you call sacrifice is theft. Jess? Her tone softened suddenly. Calculated. You don't want to do this. You don't want to destroy us. Please, just come home. I closed my eyes, gripping the phone so hard my knuckles ached. For a second, I heard the sister I'd once protected from thunderstorms, the little girl clutching my hand. But that girl was gone. No, Emily, I said quietly, steel in my voice. You destroyed yourself. I'm just refusing to clean up the mess this time. I ended the call. The silence that followed was deafening, but it felt like armor wrapping around me. For the first time, I wasn't the one carrying the secret. They were, and I was ready to expose it. The knock came just after midnight. At first, I thought it was the motel manager, but the pounding grew louder, angrier. I froze, staring at the door, heart hammering in my chest. Jessica! Open up! Dad's voice roared through the thin walls. Emily's shrill tone followed. Stop hiding. You can't ignore us forever. I backed away, clutching my phone. The door rattled under Dad's fist. Open this door before I break it down. My throat tightened, but I forced my voice steady. You don't get to order me anymore. Ungrateful brat, he bellowed. After all I've done for you, you dare. All you've done? I shouted back. You stole from me. You lied to me. You made me a servant in my own home. Emily's voice cracked, desperate now. Jess, please, we just need you to fix this. Dad's right. We can't do this without you. That's the point, I said coldly. You can't survive without me, and I'm done saving you. The pounding stopped, replaced by furious whispers. I pressed my ear to the door and caught fragments. Police won't believe her. She owes us everything. Something snapped inside me. I hit record on my phone and yanked the door open. Dad loomed in the doorway, face red, eyes blazing. Emily stood behind him, mascara streaked from tears, but her smirk still fighting to survive. You think you're brave? Dad sneered. You're nothing without us. I lifted my phone. Say that again for the camera. He froze, realizing too late. Emily lunged forward. Turn that off! You can't! Actually, I can. I cut her off. This is evidence. Harassment. Intimidation. Fraud. Dad's jaw clenched. You wouldn't dare go to the police. The words left my mouth before I could second guess. I already have. As if on cue, flashing red and blue lights cut across the parking lot. A neighbor must have called them after hearing the commotion. 2 officers stepped out of the cruiser, hands resting near their belts. Sir, ma'am, step away from the door, one officer ordered. Emily's face went pale. Dad sputtered. This is my daughter. This is a family matter. The officer shook his head. Family or not, threatening behavior is still threatening behavior. Back up. I exhaled shakily, relief flooding me as the officers positioned themselves between us. For once, I wasn't the one cornered. Emily tried again, softer this time. Jess, please, don't do this. Just come home. I met her eyes, my voice low but steady. Home isn't a place where I'm treated like a slave. Home is where I'm respected. And you'll never give me that. The officers escorted them back toward their car. Dad's glare burned holes into me, but his power was gone. I closed the door, my knees finally giving out. For the first time in my life, I had faced them head-on and won. The morning after the showdown, I woke up to sunlight spilling through the curtains instead of fists pounding on the door. For once, the silence didn't feel heavy, it felt earned. I brewed motel coffee, bitter and weak, but it tasted like victory. My phone buzzed again, 5 more missed calls. A string of desperate texts from Emily. Please talk to me. Dad is losing it. We need you. I stared at the screen, then set it face down. Their chaos no longer belonged to me. A week later, I signed the lease on a small apartment near downtown. The walls were bare, the furniture secondhand, but when I turned the key in the lock, it felt like mine. Every creak of the floorboards, every flicker of the light bulbs, whispered freedom. I filled the space slowly. A thrifted couch, a bookshelf, a desk where I could write again. No one barked orders from the other room. No one mocked me for taking up space. For the first time in years, the silence was not loneliness. It was peace. News spread quickly in our town. Neighbors whispered about Dad's temper, about Emily's debts. I didn't have to defend myself. The truth defended me. Some offered sympathy, others shook their heads in disbelief that I'd endured it so long. But what mattered most was that people finally saw me. Not the servant, not the shadow, but Jessica. One evening, I stood by my apartment window, watching the city lights blink to life. My phone lit up again. This time, it was a single text from Emily. I'm sorry. I didn't reply. Not because I hated her, but because I finally loved myself enough to stop bleeding for people who never cared if I lived or died. Forgiveness, if it ever came, would be on my terms, not as a leash, but as a choice. I poured myself a glass of water, sat at my small table, and opened my journal. On the last page of the chapter, under the words, "No more chains," I wrote something new. I survived, and as I closed the cover, I realized survival was only the beginning. For the first time, the future wasn't shaped by Dad's voice or Emily's demands. It was shaped by me, my choices, my strength, my life. I raised the glass in a quiet toast to the girl I used to be, the one who stayed silent too long. And then to the woman I had become, the one who walked away and never looked back.